Hi, thank you very much. I hope you hear me fine over there at the back. Yeah? Okay. So I think we're going to keep the discussion because this afternoon we've been having a discussion on the status of the profession. And this is exactly what I'm going to be talking about, and I'm using post-editing as a pretext in a way. So, and instead of having this question on the screen, it could be another question. Does post-editing have an impact on the status of the profession? And if so, what impact does it have? Okay. Let's go. So I'll start with talking about the branding of the profession, the image of the profession. And I'll start with an interesting quote from Common Sense Advisory. You know Common Sense Advisory? It's the only firm in the world that's analyzing the language market, language services market. And the CEO of that firm said a couple of years ago, small language service providers process fewer words than larger ones. Interesting. That's a truism. It's like saying that elephants eat more than mice. But what's interesting is process fewer words than larger ones. Actually, this statement summarizes the whole issue of the image of the profession. We're simple word processors. Whether we like it or not, that's what we are for our customers. TAUS, you know TAUS? It's the Translation Association User Society, Translation Automation User Society, based in Netherlands, sees translation as a utility. Okay. So we have to deal with a double perception, double standard in a way. So translation is seen in a positive way as a service to the public, which is good, but it is also seen negatively as cheap and even free. Google Translate, for example. So going to a bit of background on post-editing, the term was coined more than 30 years ago by people working on machine translation. They realized quickly that the output of machine translation was not up to par, so that it needed something to be done, and they coined the phrase post-editing at that time. Going back to Common Sense Advisory, Common Sense says that post-editing is a misnomer for a full range of manual processing that goes into increasing the usability of automated or machine translation. That's interesting. They also say that in 2010, about more than 41% of LSPs were offering post-editing services. They never said what word we should be using. If post-editing is a misnomer, what word we should be using, they never said about that. They never said anything about that. Feel free to ask questions as I go along. So what is the real issue that we have to deal with? And most of the people here, I guess, are doing pragmatic translation, not literary translation. But I borrowed this example from the literary side of the translation business. I'm sending you the Google translation of this book. Please put this in proper French or half the price, naturally, as you don't have to do the full translation. We see that all the time, don't we?
Yeah.
All the time. All the time. Because in the client side, language post-editing goes with language technologies. Okay? For clients, language technologies compress the length of text, so it compresses also compensation. Okay? And I'm going to give you a good example for that. That's taken from the Translation Bureau RFP. Okay? I spent all my career at the Translation Bureau, 35 years, and I love every minute of it. Okay? And in 1995, something very earth-shattering happened for the Translation Bureau. From 1934, when it was created, up until 1995, the services that we provided were free of charge to client departments and agencies. Okay? In 1995, government decided from now on you're going to have to bill for your services. Okay? I managed to convince the organization that we should bill by the hour, our clients, and we are still billing by the hour. Okay? I never could convince procurement services, okay, which was another part of the department, to allow LSPs to bill us by the hour, the Translation Bureau. Why? They told us, because it's not the practice in the industry. The practice in the industry is billed by the word. So you're not there to change the practice in the industry. We're going to change the contract, our contracting processes, once the industry changes its practice. So we have this now in the Bureau's RFP regarding translation language technologies. Look at letter E. For exact matches, you get 25% of the rate. So let's say, for example, it's 20 cents per word. You get 25%. So for exact 100% matches, you get 5 cents instead of 20. For fuzzy matches, it's 50%, so 10 cents on my example. For no match, you get 100%, so 20 cents. So actually what we're doing to ourselves, we're accepting to be billed for fractions of words. Fractions. And I love to hate this quote. We have become fixated with our clients' words and not what they want to achieve with them, becoming cross-language secretaries and not cross-cultural communications consultants. We sell words or even keystrokes and not ideas. And I'm going to repeat that last part. We sell words or even keystrokes and not ideas. I've done thousands of presentations to I don't know how many thousands of translators, and every time I ask, what do you translate? They always say, I'm translating words. We don't translate words. We translate the ideas that are behind the words. So, post-editing. A few definitions taken from the literature. Okay? An activity consisting in going over a machine pre-translation to make it understandable to readers. Another one. A para-translation task, like paralinguists or paralegal people. A para-translation task consisting in reading a translation, then making repairs to it. It's taken from very serious people in the literature. Okay? Third one, raw correction of a machine processed document to make it understandable. Okay? Couple more. Light post-editing, quick turnaround, essential corrections only. Full post-editing, okay? Slower turnaround, more corrections leading to higher quality. That's what we're doing. That's what we're selling. Post-editing does not mean translating as the work is done on a pre-translation, nor does it mean either revising as the work is not done in a translation, but rather on a pre-translation. And for efficiency, the post-editor should even keep in mind that in some cases, the reader can tolerate a certain level of artificial language as long as the text stays intelligible, accurate, and grammatically correct. Show Is it sufficient? Is it sufficient to do that?
What is artificial language?
Well, if you take raw machine outputs, it is certainly artificial in many times. Okay? So it can be somewhat artificial, but not entirely artificial. Actually, there's a confusion between two factors. There's a tension between good quality and good enough quality. And there's also confusion regarding pre-translation, which is seen as a machine-generated translation. So let's start with good versus good enough. Good quality means precise and accurate. Good enough means fast and useful. And there is a tension between accurate and quickness, accuracy and quickness. The tension is between them. What is interesting is that you never get an original that's good enough. Okay? Never, when a company decides to write a technical document or that I'm going to write, I'm going to have this document to be good enough only for the original. So it's only, the good enough is only for the translation. Okay. Are we sure that we want to do this to our clients? Good enough. And there is a perception that machine translation does not warrant as much care as human translation. I'm going to tell you an anecdote. I started in the bureau as a translator in the Foreign Affairs Department. And my first week there was to learn what was going on exactly. And we had a documentation center about 35 by 35 feet. So it was a fairly large room, no windows, only one door, one window. Okay? And in the middle of the room was a shelving for the reference material, but on the four walls were the lines and rows of filing cabinets, 4 drawers each, full of original text and their translation. And for a full week, my revisor taught me how to find text from these filing cabinets because he said to me, you're going to find many things that have already been translated that you're going to be able to use. Never said to me, Donald, you're going to be, part of your job is going to be to do post-editing of filing cabinet outputs. What is post-editing? Post-editing is post-editing of machine output. So what happened to those filing cabinets? They're in there. They're in the computer right now. They're in the computer right now. So, and what is really a pre-translation? Well, it's not a machine-generated translation. It's the result of reusing, recycling human translation, ideally professionally done human translation. Google Translate recycles human translation. So if this pre-translation is actually a recycling of previously done translation, then it's not the real machine output, is it? It's really a text that's been done by an anonymous translator or anonymous translators, but it's been done like this. Okay. Whether we like it or not, that's the new workflow that's imposing itself in translation. We receive the text, it goes to translation memory, and it goes through the turn bank, and then it goes to machine translation, and then it appears on the screen of the translator, okay, whether we like it or not. And frankly, I don't see any problems with that, as long as the decision is made with what to do with this pre-translation is left to the professional translator. Not to the client. Not to the client. Yes, it is really a professional issue. And in translation, the usefulness of the language technology is only based on one criteria, and it's efficiency. Is it efficient? And how do you measure efficiency? Only two criteria. First, can it maintain or improve the quality? So can I do quality work with this? And can it reduce the effort that I'm going to put in this translation? Okay. And just give you an example of what's behind the effort in translation. The effort indicator in translation, 10 factors impact effort. All of these. First one is language combination. Okay. Sometimes it's more difficult to translate in some language combinations than others. For example, translate just about anything in native languages, it's tough. Also, more and more translators have to translate in their B language. It's tougher than in your A language. Okay. So language combination impact on the effort. Domain and subdomain. Okay? Law is the domain. Trade law is the subdomain. It does impact on the effort that you're going to put. And you can think of any domain, any subdomain that you wish. The degree of complexity of the text that I have in front of me, is it general? Is it specialized? Is it ultra-specialized? Okay. The research I'm going to have to do on reference material, the documentation issues that I'm going to have to do. The research I'm going to have to do to find the proper terminology. It all has an impact on this. The usefulness of language technologies. So, is it going to be helpful to me? Then the transfer itself. The destination is going to have an impact on quality control. Okay. And last but not least, the length of the text and the turnaround time. All of this we take into account, sometimes automatically, sometimes not. So if I'm an expert, okay, in trade law, I'm an expert translator in trade law, then, and I've been doing this for 20 years, there is no issue for me about language combination, no issue about domain, subdomain, no issue about complexity, that's my area of expertise, no issue probably for research and for documentation or terminology. So because I know what I'm talking about. If we have text still in law, criminal law, oh, that's different. No issue about language combination, but an issue about the subdomain. Issue about research, documentation research and terminology research. So I have to stop and pause. Well, can I do 10,000 words in 3 days? Maybe yes in trade law, because I'm a specialist in trade law, for example. Maybe not in criminal law. Okay. Certainly not in nanotechnologies, because that has nothing to do with trade law. Okay. So we may take this into account more or less automatically. Okay. It doesn't mean that we don't take it into account. It doesn't mean that it's not impacting on the work that we're doing, on the effort that we're putting in the work that we're doing. And that these 10 factors represent the effort indicator. Professional translators use all of them in planning their workload, whether they do it automatically or not. But clients use only 2, the last 2. Length of text, turnaround. Length of text, and turnaround. And this is something that we've been doing for ourselves. When I ask translators professional translators, what's the expertise of a translator? They all say, provide good translations. That's not the real expertise. The real expertise of a lawyer is not provide good contracts. The real expertise of a doctor is not to give a good diagnostic. The real expertise of an accountant is not to do proper auditing. The real expertise of the lawyer is law, and a special branch of law. The real expertise of the doctor is medicine, and a special branch of medicine. And the real expertise of accountant is accounting and accounting principles. And these expertise allow the lawyers to do good contracts, the doctor to do a good diagnostic, and the accountant to do a good audit. The real expertise of translators is interlinguistic, intercultural communications. And their knowledge of the conventions of all of these communications allow them to provide good quality translation. What we're selling to our clients is that expertise, and to be precise, the time that we give our expertise, we give clients access to our expertise. The time we give access to our expertise that we have here. So how come we keep selling this by the words, and we see clients taking into account only the length of the text and the time we're going to take to do this length of the text? So, post-editing is really revising. When I became a reviser in the Translation Bureau, I went on training, and my trainer said, your work is going to be inversely proportional to the quality of the translation you're going to have to work on. The better the quality of the translation, the less work you're going to have. The lower the quality, the more work you're going to have. So, now, whether this translation comes from a translator that I know or an anonymous translator through what's coming out, the output of the machine, doesn't matter. What matters is the text that I have in front of me. Do I have to intervene less or more on it? And the intervention that we do as professionals is revision. That's what has been called since the dawn of time. And now we want to say that it is different than post-editing. Post-editing is different, it's a different operation. I think we have to think about that. So simply making a text understandable goes against the public protection mandate of the professional or certified translator. We, as professional translators, have a double mandate to ensure public protection. Two mandates. The first one is a legal one. Okay? We have to make sure that the translation doesn't pose any risk, any significant risk to the client or the reader. For example, if I'm translating instructions for the installation of an infant car seat, okay? These instructions better be rightly translated. Otherwise, there's going to be consequences for the client, and there are also going to be consequences for the buyer of the seat. Okay? So that's a legal obligation that we have. The second one is an ethical one. We have to protect society against cultural assimilation. We have to protect the language in which we are translating. Okay? And translators don't create usage. They confirm usage. Confirm usage. Society creates usage, not translators. So, Language technologies must not dictate the quality control that's needed to provide a professional grade translation. And in fact, a professional translation must never, ever be of lower quality than the original. Actually, most of the time it should be better. Why? Because the client, the writer, usually is not a professional writer, while the translator is a professional writer. So in a way, the quality of the translation should most of the time be better than the original. Certainly not lower. And post-editing actually lowers the professional translation and lowers professional translation and versions to the level of makeshift repairs. So it does have an impact on the status of the profession. It lowers the status of the profession. And we're doing this to ourselves. So stop doing post-editing. Stop doing post-editing. And what we have to do is instead is do and sell revision, because that's what we do anyway. That's what we do anyway. That's all I have to say. Any questions?
We can take only 4 or 5, like we can have 5 to 10 minutes. If you can go to the mic, please.
I see people taking photographs of the screen. I will provide you with a presentation so you can send it to whoever.
So I guess I'll make a comment. I know when I started in the industry, they used to say, plan as much time to do the translation as you did to create the original document. And that's something I'm always go back with my clients, that oftentimes they literally give you the translation and treat it like garbage to the curb, is what I actually say. In that they're giving us something that maybe they've spent 2 months creating with the perfect English, and then they say, we want it in French or in Spanish or whatever it is in 3 days or 4 days. And, but it is a battle, because clients will say, well, unfortunately, translation's at the end of many processes. So I totally agree with what you're saying. It's been an unfortunate thing that the time for translation, partly because of computerization and translation tools and all of that, is just getting compressed. And it's so hard to tell a client now that no matter what, you're treating your English or whatever as perfect, and the translation is an afterthought. That's the battle, isn't it?
It is a battle. But when you look at the business proposition of most LSPs, especially the larger ones, okay, the ones that are traded publicly, for example, it's better, faster, cheaper. So it means that it's going to be better tomorrow than it is today. It's going to be faster tomorrow than it is today. It's going to be cheaper tomorrow than it is today. It's unsustainable. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And we focus on the return on investment of the clients. And the return on investment is by selling it cheaper to the client. The Translation Bureau does not do it anymore. I'm not saying that it should, but it doesn't. But just a couple of years ago, it was still giving out contracts 5 digits after the dot. The first 2 digits were cents, and then 25.387, for example. All you had to do was to bid at 25.386, and you got the contract. And then 384, and then 380, and it's spiraling down. Spiraling down. It's unsustainable. And with language technologies, we have the perfect timing. It's possible to arrive at something like what we have here. I don't know if I go back. This. can achieve this kind of scale with translation memory. It's impossible with machine translation because you never know what's come out of machine translation. It's impossible to say that you can, well, we're going to pay you 25% of the rate or 50% of it. It's impossible with machine translation. So let's embrace machine translation and then switch to hourly or lump sum billing with machine translation. It's the perfect time to do that. Perfect time. Other comments? Other questions? Kim?
I saw this RFP and I remember wondering, do you think it was the translators that worked at the Bureau that put that together? Or do you think it was the Public Works? Or a combination?
Well, I know.
Okay.
Combination. But you know that EU does the same.
Yeah.
UN does the same. And all major word providers in the world do the same. It's everywhere. And now you're going to see, we're seeing it more with medium-sized word provider and with small-sized word provider. So it's there.
That's not so bad compared to what I saw where for every 10%, they adjusted the price. It drilled it down. It must have taken hours to figure out how to charge for 100 words. Like, it was just every 10, they changed the price. That's not so bad. Yes, it does. But it's so complicated, I couldn't believe it.
So, and we are already very well aware how the prices are definitely going down. There's a lot of pressure on the Bureau, the government is even buying from the U.S. to, contracting companies in the U.S. that later on are trying to contract us to find such Canadians, right?
Yeah.
But one of the things that always come to mind is in regards to the association, for example, maybe using your TIAC hat or educational institution, what are we doing in terms of training our translators to do revision? Because it seems that the training and the technology are not moving at the same speed, and a lot of translators are simply declining, and some of us, as I was mentioning, we really want to revise, and some people say, no, I don't want to revise, or they feel uncomfortable doing that. So
most translators, I agree with what you're saying, but most translators are uncomfortable with machine translation. They fear that the machine is going to replace them. Well, I'd like to make a comparison with another profession, accounting. You know that when accounting software came on the market at the beginning of the 1980s, okay, to do bookkeeping or to do tax, for example, accounting firms lost 85% of their business. It had a tremendous impact on accountants. They had to really, literally reform their profession, change everything in the profession. Okay. That, by the way, created Enron and the scandal with Enron, because they recycled themselves, accountants, as consultants in accounting. Okay. So they were saying to Enron, for example, spend your money that way, and they were also auditing the way they were spending their money. Now there's a clear separation, but it's still tough for them. Okay? We've been having Google Translate for almost 11 years now. Can you show me one translator who's lost his job because of Google Translate? No. So we won't lose our job because of machine translation. Let's use it. You don't use it. I use it. I use it. Everybody uses it. Pardon?
well, it's gonna die. No, I have used it, but I don't trust it. So just sometimes.
I'm not saying that you should trust it, but we do use it. I don't know anything about Chinese. I don't know anything about Chinese. If I go to China, okay, I have food allergies. I can use my phone, I can use a smartphone and I have an idea of at least what could be ordered.
Yeah.
Could order.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I'm a professional translator.
And in those cases, maybe, like as I said, maybe I have used it to understand a little bit of an area conversation, for example, that it's not going to have an implication, but I would not use it with my clients.
No.
At all.
And also it's in the public domain, the moment you put it.
Yeah, the confidentiality is.
That's an entirely different issue. That's an important issue, but it's an entirely different issue.
So do we have another question from Melina? One last question from Melina. Maybe you want to go to the line so people can talk.
It's not a question. I agree that post-study, we have to look at it, because on the international now, we're having standards being created and put out there for the international language industry. And I think we have to grapple with that. I've been trying to get schools of translation to please look at this. How are we going to deal with this? Because it's not going to go away. So we have to decide how we're going to approach it and how we're going to deal with it. That was my comment.
Machine translation is there, and there's a need for it. I don't know if you've heard the big kerfuffle about the Translation Bureau giving out its machine translation software to public servants. Okay? You have to know, and I appeared before the Official Languages Standing Committee on this, because I'm the instigator of this. Okay? You know why? And I'm a professional translator. I can tell you that I had a team of 1,500 employees, 1,100 translators, okay? 50 managers, and they were all dead set against it. Dead set. I still have scars. But at the end of the day, one stat was very telling. Each and every week, on average, it's used 1 million times by Google Translate is used 1 million times per week. So it's about 3 times per civil servant per week. Okay? And if you go back to Anne's comment about confidentiality, it means that Government of Canada's documents end up on the server of an American company that's liable under the Patriot Act. So, and we cannot say that there's no need 1 million times per week. There's a need. So.
Yeah, my comment was, I had a translator come up to me the other day, and she told me that she received some text from one of the universities in the States. She accepted the text and accepted to translate the text at a really reduced rate. So what she did with that text is she put it into machine translation, free online software, translated the document, and then edited it. So my question is, like, all that documentation is confidential information. And not anymore. Now it's all public on the web before it's been published. So,
She's not the only one.
I'm sorry?
She's not the only one.
I know she's not the only one. But these are concerns that I would have, like even, that didn't come from our company, that came outside the company, but it was a translator that I knew on a personal level that told me about that. And I realize that she's not the only one doing it, but as a private citizen, I would like to know that my documents are being kept confidential.
Absolutely.